What's up, everybody? Welcome to this latest episode of Balling from the Sidelines. In our last episode, we gave our AFC East predictions for who we think is going to win the division. But I'm just gonna backtrack a little bit and change one of my picks. I had the Dolphins getting the third wild card spot, but I'm gonna back off that. I'm gonna retract and say I don't got the Dolphins making the playoffs with that their wild card spot or making the playoffs in general. Not no disrespect to the Dolphins. I think they're gonna be a super competitive team for the reasons I mentioned before, having Tyreek Hill, a great cornerback tandem, arguably the best in the NFL. And essentially the way uh Mike McDaniel rallies these boys together to really bring out the best in them. But giving us some more thought, you guys are gonna find out who I got getting that third wildcard spot, but I'm not gonna play spoiler. I'm not gonna spoil that. So let's just move on to the AFC North and who I got winning that division. I got Cincy winning the division, and I got them getting that first seed. Reasons why I got him getting that first seed. The only other teams that were under my consideration to get that one seed are the Chiefs and the Jets. The Chiefs, I'm their defense without Chris Jones, I just think they're gonna fall off pretty considerably. And the receiving core that the Chiefs have right now, it's suspect to say the least, and they don't really have a great pass catching backfield. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's gonna put up big numbers. He's gonna come up strong, and he's gonna have a great season. Don't get me wrong, but I just think since he's more well equipped and well rounded this season, you got Joe Burrow. You got uh what's his face? Jamar Chase coming back from injury. He missed some games last year, but now Burrow's gonna have him for the entire year. You got uh a great receiving core as well, with the supporting cast in T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon as well too. I just think this offense is too stacked. It's the most complete offense in the AFC. Joe Burrow he's just been there. Him, Mahomes, and not so much Josh Allen, but he's in that tier as well too. But when it comes to Mahomes and Joe Burrow, they've been there, they've done that. They can really anytime you got them as your quarterback, you're going to be in that contention for the number one wild card spot. I think the fact that they lost, they didn't make it to the Super Bowl last year is going to put an extra chip on their shoulders. Yeah, it's going to put a chip on their shoulders. And uh no Super Bowl hangover as well either. They lost in Super Bowl the year before, 2 years ago, and they just stay on point with their preparations. As far as the defense goes, the other side of the football, they lost some playmakers, specifically with their secondary. They lost Jesse Bates and Von Bell. Those are big losses. But I think Dax Hill in his second year, he's gonna do a lot better than he last year. I know he struggled a lot, but the defensive back position along with wide receiver, those are honestly the two toughest positions to play at a high level at in your rookie year, just because of how schematically different the pros is and how really down pat you got to get the system. So I think he's gonna improve significantly. And he's gonna prove a lot of those people wrong that were considering him a bust because he was a high draft pick. As far as the front seven's concerned, the front seven is still intact. The front seven is gonna be good. You don't got to worry about that. And I think that's gonna be their iron, their the thing that holds them down defensively. But yeah, they're just too complete. You got Sam Hubbard, DJ Reader, all these guys in the front seven, and the offense can just carry the load for them. So I got them winning the first wild card. I got them getting the first seed. It wasn't that tough of a pick for me. And yeah, I guess one thing to keep in mind that I did make note of, just looking at, the roster changes and watching from last year, is they got a lot of turnovers last year. I believe they're a top 5 in turnovers, and a big portion of that came from those two safeties that I mentioned before in Jesse Bates and Von Bell. But that's gonna be one thing to keep in mind of. But keep in mind, but with Joe Burrow, the offense, they're gonna be putting up 30, close to 30 a game, maybe 30 on the dot. They could even go above 30 with the way they play. Once again having Jamar Chase back for an entire year, I think they're gonna kick it up an extra level. And the level they've been at the past 2 years is already absurd. So in the regular season, since he's going to be close to unbeatable, I got him going probably like 14-3, maybe 15-2. Probably 14-3. It is a very tough division, but since he's got this down pat, my second wild card pick, this might surprise some people because last year everybody was underrating them like crazy, but the Cleveland Browns, yes, the dog pound, this is the first season where they're gonna have Deshaun Watson for their entire year, starting at week 1. This is the first time he's gonna have a whole off season of preparations when it comes from OTAs to mini camp to training camp, and that's huge. He was brand new with that team. He had never played it down until way after the midseason. I think he came in week 10, I believe. He started 6 games, I'm pretty sure. And it was a you could see on that field, it was a big adjustment period for him, getting used to the offense, getting up to speed. But by the his second, third to last game, it seemed like he got it together. Even in that Commanders game, the Commanders had a lot to play for. They needed to win out to make the playoffs, and Watson put on a good performance. I mean, he didn't have crazy full passing yard numbers, but it was efficient, 4 TDs. The last couple weeks in general, he was able to get some respectable yards up, and you could just see it. I mean, if you're box score watching, it's not gonna these numbers aren't gonna jump out to you, especially for the massive contract he got. But uh the eyeball test really showed that he was getting more comfortable with the weapons around him and the scheme, and it just showed in his pocket presence the confidence he had. And with the entire offseason to prepare for this, people are really suffering from recency bias, and it's literally only 6 weeks of sample size. They're saying, oh, Deshaun Watson fell off, or he's not going to be back to his old form again. I mean, controversy aside, we're just talking about football right now. Deshaun Watson in with the Houston Texans, he was an incredible quarterback. He was what you call a dual package that could do everything. He was putting up 5,000 yards a season, 30 TDs, rushing for over 500 yards. He was able to make any and every throw, whether it was deep, down deep, mid range, and the intermediate routes, or check down. Good decision maker. Even in the playoffs, he played well in the playoffs. I mean, football is a team sport, and you could tell Bill O'Brien with the Texans, they were not taking advantage of his running ability at all. I remember watching those games and just yelling at the television, like, "Why are you not running with Deshaun?" Anytime he had anytime he had an attempt, he was getting like considerable yardage. I remember he had some 10-yard scrambles. It was all big chunks of yards he was getting, but they were just having him draw back too much. And he can draw back. Don't get me wrong. He can drop back 40, 50 times a game and sling it for 500 yards if he wanted to. But you're just not taking advantage of his legs, which are even right now. He's in his late 20s now. And he's still top 5 running quarterback in the NFL. He can get all done. And then, just the weapons around him. He got Nick Chubb, best running back in the NFL for 3 years now. So insanely underrated. This entire Browns team is full of underrated players or overlooked players or doubted players that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And it shouldn't make sense to anybody who knows football. Nick Chubb, he's been the best running back the past 3 years. When it comes to rushing yards, the efficiency, consistency, yards per carry, what I just mentioned before, the consistency, as well as dependability, being able to really force feed him. And he's only made one All-Pro team in those 3 years, which is exactly what I'm talking about with him being underrated. People in the conversations like to throw Saquon above him, even McCaffrey. Derrick Henry, I understand a little bit, but Derrick Henry, he's missed some games, and that's played a role in Nick Chubb being the best running back in the NFL the past 3 years. But it's been neck and neck with Derrick Henry. No one else belongs in the conversation at all. But Nick Chubb, the best productivity is availability, and that's what Nick Chubb's been able to give you. Then you got Amari Cooper, most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. I know he was highly touted out of college, and he didn't live up to a Randy Moss standard, or like T.O. or Megatron, or even Devonte Adams, but he's still it's gotten to the point where the disappointment people had for him being a Hall of Fame level talent versus what he is now, which is a Pro Bowl, all Pro caliber wide receiver. He's made multiple Pro Bowls, and you look at there's really no route on the route tree you can't run when it comes to crossing routes, check down routes, median routes, deep routes. He can move the chain, possession receiver. He's great in the red zone. He gets you 8 TDs every year, which is incredible TD numbers. And even Pro Football Focus, they released a study last year. He was ranked, like top 5 in route running, top 5 in like catching efficiency, top 5 in red zone efficiency, and if not top 5, they were all like top 5, top 10 numbers. And he was one of the only a handful, like I think only probably like 4 or 5 receivers that were ranking in the top 10 on all these different things. He got Deshaun Watson now throwing the football. That's the best quarterback he's ever had. Uh, he's never even had a quarterback remotely close to that type of arm talent. Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Jacoby Brissett. Some of them, like, they're decent, like Prescott and Derek Carr, they're decent quarterbacks, but they're not Deshaun Watson at all. Then you combine them with Donovan People-Jones, another slept on wide receiver. He's great at moving the chains. They remind me a lot of this duo right here reminds me a lot of Andre Johnson and Kevin Walter from a few years back. Obviously Amari Cooper isn't as good as Andre Johnson was, but from a complimentary standpoint, Kevin Walter was a great possession receiver to move the chains. You can count on him, great hands. And they made an addition as well too for getting a third receiver. Who knows if he's gonna be a number 2 or number 3? We'll find out as the season goes on. And Elijah Moore coming from the Jets. He's another decent pass catcher. He can definitely be serviceable. David Njoku, I always butcher his name, but he's another top 7 tight end in the NFL. Another dependable guy. They got a solid offensive line. It's not elite, but it gets the job done. It's decent. And looking the other side of the football, another thing that was heavily overlooked was their defense. They got Myles Garrett, hands down top 3, top 5 pass rusher in the NFL on the edge, probably number 1. If he's not number 1, he's up there. The numbers prove it. You just watch him on the field. They got Zadarius Smith now, another great addition. And their secondary. I know people with Denzel Ward. He had an off year last year, but he's a 2-time Pro Bowler. I think with the amount of adding that Zadarius Smith into the equation, uh, good pass rushes help cornerbacks a lot. And I think he's gonna bounce back. He's gonna have another maybe even a Pro Bowl year, but I definitely expect him to bounce back to being a very good cornerback. Combine that with Greg Newsome, great talent. It speaks for itself. I think this team is they're set when it comes to the nucleus they need. I think they're gonna get that second wild card spot after Buffalo. Buffalo has just been they've had their nucleus for a number of years now, and they know what to do. So these old with Watson at the helm, this is really like their first year together. So there might be some learning curves. I don't expect a lot. I think they're gonna come out winning right off the gate. I definitely think they're gonna beat Cincy one time around, and it's gonna be a lot of great matchups. So I expect big things from the Cleveland Browns, and Cleveland's in for many years of good football, from what I see. Nick Chubb, as long as he can stay healthy. But that just when it comes to running game, passing game combination, this is the best in the NFL. You're gonna see this year. With Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, Donovan People-Jones. You got Elijah Moore on this equation, Nick Chubb. What they're gonna be able to do with that play action is gonna be absolutely crazy. Nick Chubb's probably gonna put up like 500 yards. Defenses aren't just gonna they're not gonna know what to do. They're not gonna know if they want to stack the box, buzz the safety to account for Nick Chubb being able to pound it down their throats. And if they send too many guys into the box, or just run blitz too much, they're gonna get picked apart with Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper. So watch out for the Browns, man. I'm just telling you. Um, in all honesty, they'll probably be even contention for the division. They're probably I don't have them win the division. I think they're gonna go probably like 12-4 or something like that. But there'll be weeks where probably they'll be tied for the division lead. Who knows? But they're watch out for them. That's all I'm gonna say. And anybody who's doubting them right now, you guys are gonna regret this. All the Deshaun Watson disrespect as a quarterback, not as off the field. Off the field, the disrespect's warranted, but as a quarterback, the amount of people writing him off was just absurd. But all right, let's make it to the Ravens now. Anybody who knows me knows how I feel about Lamar Jackson. I forget who was that defensive player who called him a good running back his rookie year. I'm blanking on the name. I know it was a big name. I'm just forgetting, but that's besides the point. That doesn't affect what I'm trying to make, the statement I'm trying to make right now. He really is more of a running back than a passer. I'm sorry to all the Lamar Jackson lovers out there, all the people that are always doing all the apologetics saying, "Oh, he doesn't have a good receiving core. Oh, Harbaugh doesn't use him right. Oh, he just needs time to develop." Man, he's been in the league since 2018. 2018? Yeah, I believe 2018. He's been in the league since 2018, man. And he's never eclipsed 3,200 yards in a season. Today's NFL, I don't care how bad your receiving core is. You got to eclipse 3,200 yards in a season at least once. He hasn't improved the slightest as a passer. In fact, he's gotten worse as a passer. Um, let me start off by being nice to Lamar Jackson a little bit. Lamar Jackson 0.165 EPA per play is seventh best mark in league history. He's in with the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Jimmy G, Phillip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. Five of those guys will probably make the Hall of Fame. I mean, four of those guys will definitely make the Hall of Fame. Rivers, because of the way the media loves Phillip Rivers, even though he's overrated as hell, he's probably gonna make the Hall of Fame because a lot of it is based on the way the journalists felt about him. He's been highly overrated his whole career, and that will help him get into the Hall of Fame, even though he doesn't deserve it. But and then you got Jimmy G, quality quarterback. He's been in the Super Bowl. He's winning. His teams win. He knows he does the little things to put his team in a winning position. But a lot of that is because of the way he's able to run. So yeah, I mean a lot of that's because of the way he runs the ball. But there was all these excuses, apologetics that it was just these Lamar Jackson stands. They really need to get their heads checked. Saying bring up the receiving core. Let me just throw out some names for you and the receiving cores they had. QBs like Sam Bradford, Blake Bortles, Jay Cutler, Kyler Murray, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Kirk Cousins, Teddy Bridgewater, and Mac Jones. They both thrown for 3,500 yards or more in their career, with bad receiving cores. Lamar's never eclipsed 3,200 yards. Let's look at these. Let's look at the receivers they had. Sam Bradford did it with Danny Amendola, who was no better than Hollywood Brown. I don't want to hear none of you guys saying, "Oh, Danny Amendola is better than Hollywood Brown." No, he is not. Don't even try that with me. Blake Bortles did it with Allen Hurns, who missed half the year, and Marquise Lee. So essentially, Marquise Lee was the number one receiver most of the year, half the year. And half the year, basically, if you put up, they was still able to put up over 3,500 yards with Allen Hurns as his but no, sorry, Marquise Lee as his number one wide receiver for 8 of those games. And Allen Hurns had like a good season, but again, he's nothing to write home about. Again, he's really no better than Hollywood Brown. Jay Cutler did it with Earl Bennett. Yes, Jay Cutler passed for 3,500 yards to Earl Bennett. Mr. Interception, Jay Cutler did that. Kyler Murray did it with a washed-up Larry Fitzgerald. His rookie year and a young, unproven Christian Kirk. This is not the Christian Kirk that we see with Jacksonville. This is rookie Christian Kirk. Actually not rookie. He might not have been a rookie Christian Kirk, but he was basically he was an unknown guy, never put up, 1,000-yard season or anything like that. And if you guys watched Larry Fitzgerald last year, he was not Larry Fitzgerald. He waited too long. He should have retired a couple years before because he could not really do much. Kyler Murray did that his rookie year, by the way, too. Like I said, Lamar's been in the NFL since 2018. He still hasn't passed for 3,500 yards. Man, Christian Kirk had under 850 yards, and Larry Fitzgerald had under 850 yards this year. I'm talking about too. Kyler Murray's rookie year. Kyle Murray still passed for 3,500 over 3,500 yards that year. All right, let's look at other names now too. And once again, Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews is a much better pass catching duo. Mark Andrews is a tight end, but still he's a pass catcher. That's a much better pass catching duo than a washed up last year Larry Fitzgerald and an unproven Christian Kirk that nobody had heard about at the time. Now let's look at a 37-year-old journeyman Ryan Fitzpatrick. He gave Devontae Parker the only 1,000-yard season of his career while passing for over 3,500 yards that year. That was Devontae Parker was his number one receiver that year, and he passed for over 3,500 yards. 37 years old Ryan Fitzpatrick. He didn't even. If you look at the end of his year, his arm talent kind of eroded as he got older. He never had crazy arm strength to begin with. But yeah, over 3,500 yards. Let's look at Kirk Cousins. Threw for 4,000 yards in year 2018. Was it 2018? No, 2017. Sorry. In year 2017, Kirk Cousins in his last year with the Redskins, he passed for over 4,000 yards with Jamison Crowder as his number one wide receiver. Jameson Crowder's never caught for 1,000 yards in a season. He's not as good as Hollywood Brown either. Hollywood Brown is a very underrated receiver. We'll get more into that later. Teddy Bridgewater passed for 3,200 yards for over 3,200 yards with a rookie Stephon Diggs in Minnesota, who started only 9 games and had only 700 receiving yards. Mac Jones 3,800 yards his rookie year with Nelson Aguilar. Lamar Jackson is supposed to be light years ahead of all these guys I named. He's supposed to be a franchise quarterback, big trust. Woo, woo, I'm Lamar Jackson. People say he's a great passer, great runner. He's a great runner. People say he was deserving of being the highest paid player in NFL history. These guys I just named, should I be able to read off a list of these players with worse receiving cores, equally or worse receiving cores? Most of them were worse receiving cores who passed for 3,500 yards or more, and 3,200 yards or more in the case of Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is a backup level quarterback now at this stage in his career. He was, even as a starter in Minnesota, he was all right, but he's not what you guys make Lamar Jackson out to be. So I don't see what this is all about, but again, I don't expect it to be any better this year either. Now Lamar got his money, so now everyone's also really optimistic about Lamar as well with the upgraded receiving core. Again, as a franchise quarterback, Lamar Jackson, you're supposed to be able to make your receivers better. That's what elite quarterbacks do the entire life. Even guys like Phillip Rivers, who I wouldn't really call elite, was able to do that. So many other quarterbacks have been able to, get underwhelming receiving core talent and at least get them to 1,000-yard seasons or, pass for, be able to move the ball with your arm. And Lamar Jackson doesn't do that. He moves it with your legs. They added Odell Beckham Jr. He's washed up. But hey, if you guys think he's going to help the team, you guys think he has it left in the tank, I don't want to hear you guys afterwards say that, Odell Beckham Jr. is washed up or whatever, but they got Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. Again, I don't think, Lamar Jackson he's not going to pass for over 3,200. Maybe He put it this way, he's not going to pass for 3,300. Maybe he'll reach 3,200 mark this year. I don't know. But, you look at the running backs, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. I haven't been big on any of the Ravens running backs at all since Ray Rice. I know, I mean, Justin Forsett had some good years, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Justin Forsett had like a really good year one year, but I haven't been big on any of their running backs since Ray Rice, to be honest. Again, Mark Ingram too, but once again, the running back core isn't really gonna help, isn't it? Their offense, I think they'll be okay. Lamar Jackson can run the ball, man, hands down. Probably top 3 rushing quarterback all time. I still got Vic ahead of above him and Randall Cunningham, but after those two, yeah, he's probably the best rushing quarterback ever. He'll be able to get your yards that way. But let's look at the other side of the field with the Ravens. What was I about to say about the Ravens? So Marlon Humphrey's gonna miss some of the year. That's a big loss. I don't know how long he's gonna be out for, but that's a big loss. Marlon Humphrey's a hell of a cornerback. And that's not going to help their defense at all. Again, I think their defense is good. I think they have a good defense, but it's not going to be enough to carry the weight for the way their offense is going to play this year. I think the offense is going to be up and down, up and down. It's going to be dependent upon Lamar Jackson's legs and stuff like that. But his when he let me just get back to Lamar Jackson for a second, man. Lamar Jackson was bottom 5 in the NFL last year in deep passing last season. He still can't run a five-step drop, and he rarely runs a traditional shotgun. It's always pistol because 7-yard dropbacks typically, need more time for the play to develop. And Lamar Jackson just can't really read defenses at a high level. I don't think he ever will be able to be honest. He's not a young pup anymore. He's pretty old. He's been in the league for a long time now. He always banks on his first and second read, and when they aren't there, he takes off and runs. But, as an elite quarterback, you got to be able to improv to the point where you're just looking receiver to receiver, and, throwing a receiver open or, just finding a guy by manipulating the defense with, pump fakes, head fakes, using your eyes to, manipulate the defenses to move them to where you want them to move. And Lamar Jackson can't do that. And, he was ranked 32nd on target rates and so basically he was ranked 32nd in NFL when it came to being on target. His accuracy is bad. Okay. He makes a couple splash throws and be like, okay, this guy's accurate, but he's not an accurate quarterback. His accuracy is erratic. I mean, it's just Lamar Jackson, man. I can go on for days and days about how overrated and just bad Lamar Jackson is as a passer. He's just not a good passer at all. Throws outside the numbers for him have been a bad weakness for him his whole career. That's why Mark Andrews has really been the only guy that's been able to play at a high level alongside him. I mean, Hollywood Brown had a good season, but when it comes to like Pro Bowl, like, okay, this guy's going to make an All Pro. Mark Andrews is the only one. And why is that? Because of the RPO they run. RPOs, and the whole goal of the RPO is to get a linebacker out of position. And when a linebacker's out of position, they're, in the middle of the field, they're between the seams. Typically, even the outside linebacker, it's not rare for them to, cover, it can happen where they cover, a tight end, or they're going to be covering, a zone that's in that vicinity. So when it comes to throwing outside the numbers, that's not really what RPOs are all about. Typically, you're going to be throwing into the middle of the field. And that's what Lamar Jackson is. He's an RPO quarterback, nothing more than that. And he'll never be anything more than that. People like to say John Harbaugh, he just hasn't developed him as a quarterback. John Harbaugh is a great coach. And, if he's with him in practice every day in the off season, during the season, if he saw that Lamar Jackson was able to run these 5-step drops, be able to push off, like pull back, like, become less reliant, remove the RPO, the number of RPOs that they run, they would have done that. But, it's just not in his DNA. But let's look at the Ravens defense again. Roquan Smith, that addition played huge dividends. They weren't very good in the beginning of the year, first half, and they got Roquan Smith. They became a really good unit, but they're just not. The defense isn't good enough to account for being able to contain the Bengals twice a year and the Browns twice a year. Making our way to the Steelers, I got them finishing dead last. Kenny Pickett, decent rookie year. I think he's gonna have a sophomore slump. I'm not big on the Steelers running back when it comes to Najee Harris. I mean, he's all right, but I think he's highly overrated when it comes to, the rankings. So you got Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson, Pat Freemuth. That's a good receiving core, but nothing great. I think this unit they'll definitely get better as the years go by, probably year 3 for Kenny Pickett. The Steelers will be competitive in a few years. Defensively, Minka Fitzpatrick, Patrick Peterson, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, man, their defense was pretty good last year. Like it wasn't I mean it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Like they were able to have their moments. They have a pretty good pass rush, and Minka Fitzpatrick can turn the ball over. But they are what they are. They'll be dead last, but I think they'll go like probably 7-10, 7-10, something like that. 6-11. Steelers are never really bad. Bad years for the Steelers are 7-9, 8-8, and it's gonna be something like that with the 17 game format. But those are my predictions for the AFC North. So yeah, Bengals getting the first seed, Browns getting the second wild card spot, Ravens not making the playoffs, Steelers not making the playoffs. And yeah, thank you for watching this episode.